All right. Good morning, beautiful people. It is a Monday, and we are live. Looking after you today, I'm, of course, Sean Connery, and sitting opposite me is
Amitabh Bachchan.
Sunil Osman, and on the other side is Ryan, our producer Ryan, who's about to become Irish Ryan as he heads over to Ireland at the end of this month. Very exciting. No, why are you saying
Irish Ryan, huh?
Irish Ryan.
Ryan, did you take one of those positions where
Right.
they're looking for pig farmers from South Africa?
Is that what it is? Pig
No.
farming?
No pig farming.
Okay.
No pig
He's gonna be in a house with a bunch of other Irish people drinking himself to kingdom come. That's all the Irish do, right?
Sounds about right.
Just a bunch of drinking. Very exciting though. So Ryan is taking the opportunity to get over there and explore Europe a little bit, which I think is very, very cool.
Yeah.
Now, you excited?
Oh yeah, I'm very excited.
Booked your tickets?
Booked my tickets this weekend. Got everything done. Headed over to Flight Center and all those different travel places. Checked everything out. And no, now it's getting real. Now the countdown's on.
Very
and now
good.
we just got to get there. Like that's
right.
That's it. So
Exciting stuff.
been on the phone with all my friends that side, trying to organize some meetups for when I get there.
What did Leanne say? Where is she this morning? What's
So
her story?
Leanne has a very heavy deadline. Now you know she works on
God.
Sundays, right? So
Leanne is like those old ladies. No. I remember there's one old lady I knew, and she said, I can only do one thing a day. It's like she could only handle one thing a day. Now
So-
that's fine if you're 70 or 80 years old. You just do the one thing.
Mm.
You know, old people, that's a good pace for them to move at. One thing a day. If you have to go to the shops, that's your one thing a day. The rest of the
Yeah.
day, I'm just gonna rest.
It's your outing.
And then if your one thing is to have lunch with your friends, then that's your one thing for the day. If your one thing for the day is to, I don't know, gather up all the old family photos and put them in an album, then that's one thing for the day. That's it. So is that what she's doing? One thing a day?
yeah, no, she
No,
said
too much for
that
her.
she's got heavy deadlines and
Mhm.
she didn't think she
No.
was gonna make it.
So how are you, Sunil? I haven't seen you for a little while. We've had you on the show
Yeah.
recently, but not that recently, not
No.
this year.
It's the first time at the new studios. It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like I could catch a sleep on one of the couches.
It's like a resort here.
It
It
is.
feels like it's
Yeah.
a
It's the birds chirping.
holiday resort.
And everything. Otherwise, I'm good. I mean, I've been through quite a lot of reflection and reinvention over the past year.
Well, you are a Reiki master, so
I've been
That's
doing a lot of that. And
we secretly brought you in just for that.
okay, yeah,
That's
yes,
what we
okay.
need.
Well, I can teach now as well.
So what do you feel? How do you feel the energy in the studio is this morning?
It's
Yeah.
very calm and,
Oh, is it?
and very, very relaxed, but it's also very emotional.
Emotional.
Yeah.
A bit emotional. Yeah,
I think it's Ryan.
that's right.
That wasn't me.
Definitely, yeah. But otherwise, I'm good. I've been doing
Right.
a lot of that and doing a lot of I'm doing video content editing on mobile for companies now.
Shit. All right.
Sure.
We can't afford the big stuff, so I do mobile video.
That's all
editing.
right.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
good business. There's a lot of work there.
It is, and
I actually met someone just last week, and he's young. He's trying to do video production, media, all of that stuff. But the problem is that there's so many people who can do that now.
yes,
Oh, yeah.
It's hard to
yes.
get work.
Yeah, and the thing is that
This guy's like out of school, and he's saying to me he needs work. and
yeah,
it's to-
yeah.
I don't know. There's so many people doing this.
Yeah, but what I picked up is there are a lot of companies, especially the small ones, who can't afford these big budgets. And mobile
No.
video is the way to do it, but you got to do it properly. I
No,
mean,
sure.
you know, and I've been doing a lot of Reiki acting. One of my films got released last year.
You really mix it up. man.
Wait.
You really mix it up.
Oh,
That's very cool.
Acting, Reiki.
It's called Skaapboere Afrikaans film. I had to play an Indian gangster.
No way.
That
They
sounds-
made you an Indian in the
And I
How
can't
rude.
believe it. You know, they didn't even ask me to fix their cell phone. But then a friend of mine from Dubai contacted me and because she watched it and she said, what's up with the accent? Because I had to put on this Afrikaans Indian gangster accent.
How'd you do that? Tell me how it goes.
Ek weet nie waarvan jy praat nie, my bro. Ek weet nie
Oh,
waar-
wow.
very
That's a
nice.
good, that's a
Whatever.
good mix.
Very
Yeah, but
good.
don't know what is going on. Wat gaan nie aan? Is dit malan
you,
julle koppen?
That's good. I like
That's
this.
very good.
All right. Do you, when you're doing this Reiki stuff, because
Yeah.
Reiki's all about like energy.
Yes,
right? You
yes,
you
yes.
move your hands around someone, you feel their energy.
Yes.
Who's the most weird energy you've ever had? What's the most scary energy you've ever encountered as a Reiki master? I don't have a lot of understanding of this stuff. I'll admit it from the outset.
Yes.
But I'm going to let you explain. I just want to know about the most extreme form of energy that you've encountered.
So, I mean, I've been doing a lot more, and it's weird, but in the past couple of months, a lot more energy clearings for premises and houses, and even if I go into
houses that are possessed by demons.
No, it's more like stagnant energy. But
I've always said if someone has a house that's beautiful, let's say you have a magnificent, 20 million rand house, the most beautiful property, and it's demon possessed. It's a haunted house. Sell it to me. I don't believe in that stuff. I'll buy it for you, but cheap. You give it to me for 2 million.
Come to Krugersdorp. There's a few of them.
I said nice houses.
Nice houses.
Hey, there are some mansions in Krugersdorp.
I said nice houses. There's nothing else about Krugersdorp.
Now, I actually went to one of those massive ones, and there was an energy that didn't want to be released. So I removed discordant energies. I mean, we carry energies all over. I brought energies with me here. And the energy didn't want to be released. And then I started having dreams about this energy. So I had to go back to the premises. And then it was like, okay, I will leave now. And I took them out.
Sure.
And just like that.
But in a person, like when they come to you for a treatment or whatever it is, and you feel, ooh, this person, there's something wrong here.
No, the worst I've had.
Vibe.
Look, I've got 62 people at the moment I look after around the world. And one of the strongest energy that I've had is always when somebody doesn't want to release a form of trauma. So that is very hard to help release. I can do as much as I can, but at the end of the day, as a Reiki practitioner and Reiki master, you are just the conduit. You help the person to heal or to release that. And they were struggling to let go of a certain energy that they went through in their younger years, and they just couldn't let go of it. And so trying to pull it out.
When I have a patient like that, I put the bell right next to their head, and I go, that wakes them the hell up.
Yeah, but that's been the
bad
stuff.
Spirits.
Yeah, that's been the toughest, the trauma. Yeah.
I know. I mean, I know that you take these things seriously. I can't, and you also have to occasionally deal with suicides. And that's got to suck, man.
3 last year.
Wow.
I mentioned this to Sunil when we started, just before we started the show. I said to him, the problem is not that people are more suicidal now, not that life is harder, or not that that things are adding up and making it much worse for people to be alive, and the stresses and tensions of modern living. I think it's that we've lost our resilience.
We have. I mean, people chase that instant gratification. They don't want that. They don't go, okay, you know what? I'm going to be okay. They want to be okay right now.
Yeah, there's this premium placed on comfort and on safety in the moment. And if you think back, I mean, people had such resilience in the past. Like you'd lose 3 children to the Rinderpest. Well, we'll have to have a 4th. And mums would lose 2 sons in the war, and they'd be like, well, got to keep soldiering on. They wouldn't go and kill themselves. Of course there were people. Listen, let's not pretend. There've always been people who couldn't handle stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, the fact that so many people in their 20s, and you hear these horror stories about these really young people who've got so much of life ahead of them, and they've got talent and potential, and you hear about them offing themselves, and you just think, you just needed a bit more resilience. Your opportunity to make the world a better place was still coming.
Yeah, the pressure. There's so much pressure society is placing on for like immediate deliveries and being perfection is causing a lot of people.
Well, but that's such a stupid reason to like end it all.
Yeah,
right?
Totally. No, absolutely.
That's a very stupid reason. Absolutely. I mean, Slippery Pickle says here in the comments, I didn't realize that giving up was an option.
No, I mean.
It's a lot of people's opinion.
I saw the other day that there was, I think it was a girl who committed suicide after she got her high school matric results.
I mean,
and I just thought to myself, you know what? I don't even know when last I pulled out my matric results for anyone, and they really don't matter.
Can't tell you what I got for anything in matric.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so unimportant, and you think. People have been lying to her about what's really important.
Yeah, exactly.
And she's taken it so to heart, and she's got so little resilience.
Yes.
That she's like, well, I didn't get my 4 A's for matric. I'm done for.
Yeah.
I'm going to end up just living in poverty.
Yeah, mom and dad are going to be upset with me, so I might as well just go.
There's another thing to this while we're being philosophical and worrying about people's serious problems first thing on a Monday morning. I promise you we can have a fun show. It will start being fun just now. Is this idea of having an adventure. Is that part of going on an adventure is having some pain.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if an adventure is all just highs and it's all just, oh, that's beautiful, and oh, what a view, and oh, what cool things, and look, we've had another great meal, and we're around such wonderful people, and nothing terrible has ever happened, then it's not an adventure.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah, no, and even with my Reiki sessions, I mean, when I do Reiki for people think they're going to be fixed within one session, and they don't realize it's a journey. And thinking awakening's nice. No,
without the tough stuff.
Yes.
Without the fire, you can't temper the iron.
Exactly.
Right?
Darkness and light.
Jesus. I mean, it's like, to me, this seems really straightforward and simple. And I'm not saying I understand pain and torment and difficulty and danger more than anyone else. I really don't.
Yeah.
I mean, in some ways, I have a very charmed life. But even I realize, like, that's not the way of things. The way of things is that you got to struggle.
Yeah.
Like, you've got to be really poor to understand how good it is to not be poor.
That's it.
You've got to be under enormous stress and strain and know that everything's hanging by a thread to appreciate what you've got after and before that.
Absolutely.
You have to love, and you have to have your heart broken to know that it's worth having relationships with people.
Yeah.
There's no easy ride. And like, I feel, because maybe, and someone made the point here, it's also Bronwyn. She says, life isn't hard. It's too easy now. That's why people spend so much time thinking about how hard it is to get out of bed. Well, I think that's right. We've had a sustained period of peace, at least in global terms, right? And there isn't a generation before, whatever generation you're in Gen Z and millennial, Gen X, whatever. There isn't any generation before that had it easier than you. There just isn't.
Yeah.
It was always harder.
It's as you say, this is the best time
it's the best time to be alive.
To be alive in the world.
So to people who want to off themselves, just like, come on, man.
Yeah, we are spoiled. I mean, one of the people that off themselves last year, it was actually a dear friend of mine, and he normally would call me if he's going through a tough time. He had a bad phone call.
Oh, how would you feel?
And that's it.
How did it feel taking that call?
Oh, it wasn't.
When you get a call from someone who's like on the edge.
Well, the funny story is that
I'd be so hard pressed not to like make fun, and because I don't know how to deal with stuff like that. So I would immediately default to humor.
Yeah, so
not a good idea.
I found out too late, and when his girlfriend phoned me in the morning, or his ex-girlfriend, I was like, "Which one are you? I don't know who you're speaking." And then I was like, "Oh my gosh, And it's worse because he stays like 5 Ks away from me.
Oh shit!
So that hit hard.
Hectic stuff.
Yeah.
God damn. All right. Well, somebody says that Leanne is looking much hairier this morning. Hi, Octane Henrik. Yes, there she is. She's looking great this morning, Leanne Mole.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, Ryan, tell me, what are the things that you're taking with you? Because you can only take a suitcase. What do you need? What are you going to miss from South Africa the most that you absolutely have to have with you?
No, so this is the thing, right? I was trying to think of all the snacks and things maybe that I should take over, because
snacks.
Are there no like South African snacks that you
can't take biltong? I can tell you that. I've been stopped many times.
Don't take any of that shit, because they'll find a way to stop you.
I think so. Huh?
They're nervous about food. Buy the stuff that you think you're going to need at the airport, but also wean yourself off of it.
I mean, what would you take if you were
you're going to Ireland? Try Irish stuff.
Oh yeah. No,
nothing worse than going to another country and then you keep trying the stuff from home.
Yeah, exactly.
Can I tell you, it's so weird.
Like all those South Africans in London who just spend their time around other South Africans.
So my friends over there, right? They always tell me that they're going to get Chinese food, and so I'm like, okay, cool. So like, what kind of Chinese food are you getting? They're like, no, their favorite thing to get is it's chips with curry sauce. And I'm like, chips with curry sauce at a Chinese shop in Ireland.
Yeah, but you see that, I mean, the English think curry is their national cuisine. just because they're
also
the
they just have
Pakistanis and Indians
potatoes
brought
coming.
it to them. They do. They think
They
curry,
do. Yes.
Really?
Oh,
They
go
think-
down the road to you want to come for a curry?
No.
I think it's national cuisine because they've forgotten that was brought there by Pakistanis and Indians.
It's funny because you speak about the curries. I did a song called "I Love My Bunny Chow," which actually went international, and they're now using that song in kindergartens in the UK because it involves curry.
But do they know what bunny chow is?
They do
the
now
UK?
because of the song.
Oh, look at you spreading South Africanness.
Done with the Canadian.
Are you getting royalties on this?
I don't even get a bunny chow.
Are you? What do you think you're going to miss besides the food? I mean, if you are going to miss any of the food, what else are you going to miss?
What, from South Africa?
No. Oh, please.
Can I tell you, the early mornings are definitely not going to be.
No, you're not
something
going to
I
miss that. You
Not
might
at
miss
all.
that. No,
I think I'm going to really enjoy being able to wake up at like 6 or 7 a.m. without having to worry that I've missed the show. I don't actually. I don't.
Simon says take chutney.
Take chutney.
Yeah, Mrs. Ball's chutney is a major. People.
Is there a Nando's out there?
There are Nando's in England for sure.
I don't think there's one in.
But
I
it's
don't know
not the same.
Not sure. Maybe if
Is
someone's in Ireland, they can let us know. In fact, we've got a listener called Cindy who lives in Ireland. She knows the whole.
No, because I was
She'll
thinking,
tell you.
like, if no one
Take
has
you through
opened one there, that's a business opportunity. I feel like you'd make so much money over there.
Rebellious Ruth and Slippery Pickle say the sun,
Oh,
the weather,
yeah.
the weather. Yeah.
Definitely.
You just better get used to being more pale.
Oh yeah, no,
That's gonna
I was even so. My cousin called me and he even said you must bring over a lot of vitamin D because apparently, again, there's a high suicide rate
Oh
in
my
Ireland
God.
because the
Oh.
weather's so depressing because there's a
Mhm.
lack of vitamin D because there's no sun. So that's something I also have to like bring over.
Seasonal depression is a real thing, but you're a big guy. You got enough D there.
Yeah.
Nando's is worldwide, according to Ruth.
Okay. Fantastic.
And that
I know
Bunny
we
Chow
missed
song is weird, 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 says Christian. He's heard it. Cool
Somebody looked
song.
it up
Yeah.
already. How's that?
Own it.
Yeah.
Own it.
You can get it on YouTube. You can go check out I Love My Bunny Chow.
Carl reckons that the 4 countries in the United Kingdom make the worst food on the planet. It's
Oof.
disgusting. Yes, but luckily there are people from all over the world that have gone to live there.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
especially the spices side of things. Oh.
Yeah, so actually you'll be fine. But yeah, I mean the English contribution to world cuisine is what? The potato chip. That's pretty much it. That's what you got.
And you're going to find
It's pretty
You're
decent.
going to find South African shops. They have like international shops.
I think there's a lot of South Africans there as well.
Yeah.
Like
Oh, plenty.
in
No,
Ireland.
South
and-
Africans everywhere.
Oh,
Talking
they are.
to some people over the weekend about how like South Africans, we people like us
Mm.
everywhere. When they hear you from South Africa, they don't go and try to step away. And we work hard, but we're everywhere now.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Now it's no longer like a curiosity.
Yeah.
Once upon a time, it was like, oh, South Africa.
Yeah.
Now they're like, oh, South Africa.
I spent some time in Skagway in Alaska, and there were South Africans there.
There were-
with a South
in
African
Alaska.
shop.
In Alaska.
At a South African shop,
They have a South African shop.
What did they sell there?
Literally.
Mrs. Ball's
Bull-
shop.
This is all chutney knickknacks.
Apparently there was a really terrible storm in the West Rand yesterday. Well, I woke up this
Oh my
morning, went
gosh.
outside, and there were a whole lot of branches of trees, not big ones, but like little branches of trees
Mm.
lying all over the place and leaves everywhere. I thought, must have been quite hectic last night, but I went to sleep and didn't hear it. So you obviously did.
Yes. Oh, I thought our house.
How bad was it?
It's the worst storm I've ever seen. I literally thought our windows
Ever?
were going to blow out. Yes.
Oh, wow.
Ever. No, out of nowhere, this lightning came.
Wow.
And it was very electrified yesterday. And then the hail came and our windows were howling. And you know when the curtains are like brushing up against the wall like this, and you
Oh
have
my
to go
God.
down. Yeah, no, it was crazy. Was there no storm by you guys?
Not
Not at all.
Not like that.
No.
So why is it only in the West Strand?
Are you sure you don't need a premises clearing?
Yeah, it sounds like you had some demons there from those. What do they call them? The what did they? Those Devil's Door killers that lived in that neighborhood.
No, it was so bad. And
That sounds horrific, though. Do you think there was a lot of damage? Must have been.
there must have been. I heard like a lot of cop cars and ambulances like driving past afterwards.
Mm.
My sister was literally caught in it on her way back from the shops or whatever, and she couldn't even get out the car because it was crazy. The wind was howling. I don't know if anyone else experienced this. I'm trying to see if anyone else in the comments has Now I feel like it's only
Are
me.
you sure you were awake? It wasn't a dream.
No. I was definitely awake. You couldn't sleep through that storm, even if you tried.
Oh my gosh.
It's very hectic on the West Strand.
Yeah, very.
This time it's not about people beating each other up.
I genuinely thought everyone else had like a massive storm yesterday, but now I don't. That doesn't sound like it.
It drizzled beautifully where I stay. This ground smelled amazing at about 12 last night.
There we go. Somebody says the East Strand also got hit yesterday. I wonder. We need to check on Simpiwe. Make sure she's good.
Yeah, but she's on the East Strand, so that's a different kind.
Yes,
different kind of scary. All right, well, a lot of people here talking about the smell of the ground after the rain. Noluvuyo says the smell after it rains, that muddy smell is fantastic. So there's a name for that, and it's actually caused by the ozone that is made by the lightning, the electricity in the sky. And I'm trying to think of what it's called. It's called, someone told me a while ago, and I can't.
I don't want to say the word moist because I don't think it's moist.
No. There's a particular word for it. It's a beautiful word too. God damn.
Does anybody know what it is?
Yeah, it's
Ryan.
What?
Do you know what the word is?
No, I have no idea.
I'm looking at.
I'm the worst person.
I sent this word to someone just the other day.
Oh.
Yeah.
Do you send like some people and I used to do this thing word of the day at 11 o'clock every day? Do you guys do like a word of the day situation? Or
no. It's just I sent it because ozone is 3 oxygen atoms bonded into a molecule.
Yes.
And it's unstable. It's a hugely powerful oxidizing agent. So you can use it to disinfect things. Ozone can't be breathed in. It's very bad for you to breathe it in because it's highly reactive as a gas. O2 is what we usually breathe in. That's 2 oxygen atoms. When you've got 3, it's a little bit unstable. But that extra oxygen reacts with pretty much anything to destroy bacteria. It can clean up. It can cleanse the air. It can sort out a whole lot of things. So if you've got smells in a room, ozone will purify that. It'll take the dangerous, dirty stuff out of water, for example. So you use it to purify water. And that smell is ozone. The smell of that fresh ground after the rain.
Learn something new every day.
Petrichor. Petrichor. So
a lot of people
and that happens after you get petrified in
it's such a nice smell though, right?
Yes, absolutely. Nature is amazing.
Then why the fuck are you trying to save the ozone, said JP. Well, you need the ozone too. The ozone layer is a thin layer of ozone, which is caused again by electrical activity in the upper atmosphere. And what it does is it stops a huge number of cosmic rays and dangerous solar radiation from coming through the atmosphere and basically irradiating us. Exactly. So that's why we needed the ozone layer. And remember, there was that big panic in the 80s and 90s. But all these women with their hairspray, they're ruining the ozone layer. And
that was the thing?
Yeah, chlorofluorocarbons, CFCs, in the in aerosols.
Hairspray.
Yeah, in aerosols, basically, were doing a huge amount of damage. Look, they told us it was going terrible and we were going to die. And, like Al Gore's Inconvenient Truth, the polar ice caps are going to melt. There was this huge hole over the Antarctic. And it's since recovered. Yes. I mean, probably because we stopped using so many CFCs, and they weren't such a great idea anyway. But yeah, the ozone layer is very important. We've got it back. There isn't a big hole in anymore. Human ingenuity saved the day, which will save the day again with regard to climate change.
There was a thing about deodorant at the time. They even made movies. Mother Nature there was little puppet frogs singing in little movies about it. And
that's right.
Yeah.
Kermit.
There we go.
Kermit did the ozone is going to kill us.
Exactly.
Well, it's not the ozone. It's the lack of an ozone layer.
The speaker kept quiet at that time.
Is the hole in the ozone, spelt wrong, slippery pickle, caused by Australian people using deodorant? Well, it was once. Gareth, did you perhaps hear Elon Musk interview Robert Kennedy Jr. and set him straight about how safe nuclear power is? Fantastic interview. No, but I know what Elon's take on nuclear is, and I'm on his side 100% of the way, because I do think, people are hugely spooked by 3 Mile Island, by Fukushima, by Chernobyl. But you can name all 3 of the big nuclear problems that we've had in, 70 years of nuclear power.
Yeah.
And the majority of those nuclear power stations run very well. Competent people are in charge of them. They are safe as houses. They're certainly a lot safer than it would be for people to actually burn coal and wood in their own houses, which is what they do in many parts of the third world, which puts them at a much more dangerous state of health than a nuclear power plant, which could theoretically cause some trouble if things go wrong. But people are terrified of what they don't understand.
Yeah. I mean, even with the cars these days, they have to have certain CFC emissions and all those things.
Well, just to go back to the power thing, everybody's terrified of like a nuclear power accident. And of course, that's a good thing to be terrified of, because if it goes wrong, it goes horribly wrong. But the amount of power produced by a tiny little pellet of uranium, you cannot compare that to, I mean, you'd have to put up solar panels for kilometers and kilometers and kilometers on end. It would ruin the whole principle of looking after nature.
Yeah.
You got just an entire area covered in solar panels. How well do you think that's going to go for all the animals that used to live there, or the grass that you once grew in that sun, or whatever it was that was there before? And wind with those turbines that keep killing all the birds. You really think that that's worse for the environment than, the nuclear is worse than that?
Yeah.
Anyway, and it doesn't provide nearly the power. So nuclear is the way to go. And I'm totally on that page. And Robert Kennedy Jr. is no idiot either. So although I haven't heard the interview, I'm sure that he made a lot of sense too. He's particularly good when it comes to the role of the media going forward, where that is. The media really has quite a lot to answer for in terms of the way they've treated him. He's a third-party candidate, which everybody always talks about wanting in America, especially. They're like, we don't want a Republican, we don't want a Democrat, we want someone who stands for the American people. And then they get one and they don't know what to do with him. So that's what's happening there. Anyway, I'd like to see how that whole thing rolls out. I'm sure it's pretty good. Thanks for the tip-off. A little ingenuity and some help from Wuhan to keep us all at home. Yeah.
Oh, I heard such a funny joke about that on TikTok the
Go
other
on.
day. It said, what's the difference between Wuhan and Vegas? Oh, man.
Oh, God, you fucked
Correct.
it up.
I went-
Stand-up comedy with Ryan Tinney.
Please go.
What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
All right, but in Wuhan.
I forgot the punchline. Oh, my God.
Coburg and Eskom and the people in charge there scares the bejesus out of me. Well, you see, exactly. I mean, I don't know who's in charge at Coburg. I do know that Pelindaba is still running. They've got nuclear fuel rods there, and they use now, because we hardly use it for any. It was never a nuclear power station. It was always a research facility. But now we don't do that much research, so they use the radiation to do is to make topaz blue.
Oh, wow.
They take gemstones and they dip them in the radiation
Oh, wow.
core,
I didn't know that.
and they come out blue after a while.
That's very cool.
So it's for making gems. Like honestly, you can look into it. I've looked into the nuclear reactor, and that's what you see is a bunch of little stones lying there. But I'm sure they're using it for other reasons too. I just don't know what they are. Our nuclear power plant is in the Western Cape because, can you imagine? Well, you see, Azalea, you were wrong, because Pelindaba is just up here.
That's right.
It's our government's ability to fuck up everything that's more concerning. Do you think that they would have responsible, competent people working there? Well, they do at this point.
Oh.
They make gems.
They do. Well, they're not causing a nuclear winter across South Africa. So let's just be grateful for that. And as long as they have competent people in charge there, which I believe they do, then we'll be okay.
It's election season. So
See, I
everything
think
is.
also a politician doesn't want to run a nuclear research facility because what's in it for them?
Yeah, they're not going to get in money.
There's no incentive. If you want to know why someone is in politics, just look at what they get out of it. If they get power and attention, like Fikile Mbalula is totally in it for attention. All he wants is to be famous and for people to love him. That's all he wants. He doesn't care about changing the world for better or for worse. He's not actually interested in making the country work. He doesn't even care about the ANC. He cares about himself. He wants love and attention. Didn't get enough hugs as a kid. Obviously didn't have a good relationship with his father. I mean, you
need some
healing. You know what I'm talking. You need some healing. You need some Reiki from you.
Here we go.
But
if you
someone
lost
like
Twitter
Cyril,
account,
someone like Cyril's just totally in it for himself.
yeah,
And for different reasons, he wants money and power. And then you get people like Julius who are in it for money, power, and a bit of attention.
Mm.
And I suppose there are good politicians. I just can't think of any right now. By the way, did you see the DA had a big rally in Pretoria yesterday? Oh, it was on Saturday.
I didn't.
I saw it on the, I saw it on the, I don't know. I just saw it on the news. If anybody knows how it went, let us know.
Yeah.
Be interesting to find out.
Would you go to any of these rallies?
Not a chance. I wouldn't go.
I don't know. I wouldn't waste my time on it.
Why do they give you free food?
You get people who go to marches and rallies, and you get people who don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's nothing. I don't see the point of a rally. I know that people get together and they feel a sense of companionship and camaraderie and fighting for a cause, and that's not for me. That's not going to attract me at all. There's no cause I can think of that.
There was some rally that happened not too long ago as well. I think it was in a big stadium where everybody came to this rally and then they disappeared while all the speeches and things were happening.
Where did they go?
Oh, they waited for lunchtime and then they came back.
You see, I heard the other day that Harvard, there were a bunch of pro-Palestinian Harvard students who went on hunger strike for 12 hours.
Whoa.
Such heroes.
Sure.
So you see, I mean, that's the kind of performative crap. Like 12 hours, as Bill Maher said in real time. He said, that's about half as long as most high school girls who are trying to fit in their prom dress. 12 hours of hunger strike is a lot.
Oh.
I mean, you are not a serious protester if you're going on a 12-hour hunger strike.
No.
There are people who've died in jail with hunger strikes.
Yeah.
It takes you a few days.
I mean, Gandhi lost a lot of weight.
He lost a ton of weight. I'm so chuffed, though. I weighed myself yesterday. I'm 4.5 kilograms lighter than I was 2 weeks ago.
Very good.
I'm so happy about it. I was bouncing off the walls.
But are you attempting like a diet situation, or is this like it just happened?
So I cut out the drinking, which is a start.
Okay.
That's already made me feel better. And I think I've lost some weight just automatically from that. And then it's just not eating all the crap.
Yeah.
Like I often will just snack, which is so dangerous.
You
just open up a packet of chips and before you know it, you're at the bottom of it and you're like, oh God, what have I done?
Are you cooking now?
Please, what do I
No, I'm asking.
I can do basic things, Ryan. I can cook basic stuff, but I don't sit there with recipes, and I don't know how to use like the oven for complicated stuff. I can do basics, but not complicated.
What's your favorite thing to make?
Yeah.
I love cooking just steak.
No, like simple.
Making salads. Yeah, I can do that. I can fry an egg. I can do basic stuff, but don't ask me to do a casserole. I don't even know what it.
Of course.
How would you do that?
No, because I'm just thinking
or baked something. Baking something. What do I know about baking?
Because I mean, if you like eating healthier or you're losing weight, so you're clearly not getting a lot of takeaways. So I'm just trying to think, if you're not cooking, like that's why I'm trying to figure out like what you make.
No, I'm just eating less of the crap in between meals. So I mean, I don't eat badly. I'm very aware of carbs, but not to the point where I'm excluding them.
Right.
I mean, like yesterday, I had a baked potato with lunch, but
And then do you have like do you drink water? Like, do you have a goal of how much?
So much water.
Because I know a lot of people like trying to aim to drink
every
3
day.
to 4 liters a day.
Every day I'm drinking it.
But have you heard that?
But I was doing that before.
If you drink too much water, sometimes it's bad for you. Actually,
listen, I've heard this terrible rumor that everything is bad for you.
Too much of a good thing is never good for you, right?
Exactly. So Carl says, Gareth, if government was going to ban podcasts, would you join a rally to stop them? See, it's not so much that I just don't like rallies. It's also that I don't think they achieve anything. You always see these protesters, they always hand over a memorandum of grievances. I remember that was a big thing Kasatu used to do. Here are our grievances. They'd hand them in somewhere, and some official would like take the grievances. And then what would they probably threw them away as soon as they walked into the office?
Forever.
They probably threw them away. They probably put them in the paper shredder. These are our grievances. And then nothing would happen to them. So I don't think protests really achieve anything. I mean, if it's like 1 million people who pitch up in front of the union buildings to demand the resignation of the president, he can't ignore that.
No, that's.
I think our president would.
He probably would, but most
He
presidents.
would
I mean, that
encourage.
happened in Sri Lanka not so long ago, remember? And it caused the entire government to resign.
Sure.
Because they realized they'd just pushed things too far. I think it's great if they're... Look, don't get me wrong. You want to protest? I'm not going to stop you.
Of course.
And I
Go
think
right ahead.
I think it's massively important that in a country you're allowed to express yourself. And by expressing yourself, not everybody has a microphone in front of them and a show like I do. And if your way to express yourself is to join a rally, awesome. But I'm not a rally kind of guy. So don't invite me along. You know, it's like people who do these walks or these marches, or they ride their bicycle through South Africa from Cape to Limpopo.
Yeah.
And they're raising money for something. I always say, well, why don't you just raise the money? Why do you need to do the riding on the bike thing? And they always go, well, it's because then people will donate. Well, maybe they're not that interested in your bicycle race. Maybe they want to help with the project anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, I just don't know why you'd want to put yourself through that.
Some people just love. This is what people do too. Is that they go on a run or something, and then they tell you that I'm running for raising money for cancer or whatever. But they really like running.
Anyways.
And then if they raise 5 rand or 500 rand or 50,000 rand,
they're still going to run.
They're still going to run. It's really about the run. It's not about the cancer.
Yeah.
Bouncing off the wall is a great way to lose weight. Well, I was just excited because, when you see results, that I'm a results guy. You talked about the journey earlier on and adventure and all that stuff. That's all good and well. And I do believe that has a place. But some people are motivated by results, and I'm one of those people.
Yeah.
So if I can see there's a result to something, I just keep going at it.
Absolutely.
And then I love it. So
I used to weigh 84 kgs before I started boxing, and then I fought a boxing match. And I'm
84. How tall are you?
I'm 1.65.
Okay, so then that's probably about right. And you weren't. It's not like you were fat.
No, but I looked like a Buddha.
Really?
Yeah, my stomach was round, and then it was purely lifestyle. So I can understand the result side of things. I mean, I had a measurements day at my Body Tech studio last week, and I was like, oh my gosh, I've gone up by 1 kg.
Carl says, okay, last one. If there was a protest against protests, would you join? No. For the same reasons already outlined. I think I've got a degree of consistency here.
Yeah, I think so.
I think we've established, I thought this through, and maybe I'm not the guy to join you on a protest.
When I was studying at the SABC building, we had so many protests every day.
You joined all of them?
No, I didn't join any of them. We were students, so our building was located right opposite Radio Park.
Right.
And so we would have lectures in one of the main halls in the new building, and you just hear the singing. And it wouldn't stop for 2 hours. And there's just people coming and holding up signs. And it's like, maybe but you would say, now, what is it about today? Because there was so many.
Yeah, there's always something new. Maybe that's why I hate them so much, the protests, because they always used to get in my way. And I'd be like, oh, I have to go around.
And it's funny because they have to get police clearance before they do it.
Yeah.
And then the cop cars sit on the corner of each side. And they're just like.
Yeah, and they sleep in their cars.
But coming to the results thing, I mean, don't you think protests have become so normalized either? It's just another protest.
Again, a lot of people are just in the protest because they either have nothing else to do or it's a way to get off of work.
And you get those people who join it because they just want to be part of something. They don't know why they're protesting.
And we if you see something trending on Twitter, and we talked about this a lot last week, you know that it's probably being paid for these days. If something is making a lot of noise on social media, someone somewhere is paying for it, whether it's a political party or a rich donor or a company. Someone's paying for it. So you can't trust that anymore.
Boosting it.
Yeah. When you see that stuff online, you must know it's bullshit straight away. It is. It's guaranteed it's bullshit. Same goes for protests. Someone is probably organizing this to make it look like there are a lot of people who care about something. And unless it's a spontaneous eruption of public fury about something, which doesn't happen often.
No.
If it isn't that, then, if it's anything under 100 people, it's probably just bullshit.
I actually saw there was a protest the other day that the ANC organized to go march for more jobs. And Musi Maimane quoted it. And it said, why are you marching against yourselves?
Yeah.
Like, this is the stupidest thing.
Right.
I'll even find the poster for you.
South Africans will dance and march, and they're not even sure who the enemy is.
Yeah.
In many of these situations, which again is so stupid.
See, have a look here.
Let me just get on there. Who's that? March for decent jobs.
And there's Musi my money.
The foolishness is starting. How do you march against yourself to ask yourself to do your job? Quite right. Quite right. Musi Maimane is saying some good stuff at the moment. I mean, I won't vote for him, but he's saying some good stuff. Have you thought about the election, Sunil? You're not very political.
I totally have. I mean, look, I was actually in work.
It's only a couple of months away. The president still hasn't announced, but we're probably looking at May.
Yeah, I was actually watching the president the other day, and he did a speech, and they caught him saying, "Can I just go home now?"
Really?
Yes.
They caught him saying that.
Can I just go home now?
He just doesn't give a damn.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was all over
that
Twitter.
guy, I'm sorry I didn't see that because that's outrageous.
Yeah,
they actually caught him saying what we all know he thinks.
Can I just go home now?
He just doesn't want to be there.
That clip. Yeah.
He just does not want to be the president. What an underperforming, mediocre, just careless.
I've been looking a bit at some of the newer parties coming out there, and there's some community-based ones like the Rise has impressed me quite a bit.
Yeah, but come on, what chance does... I love Tongezo Zibi. We're going to get him in here in the next couple of weeks. He and Rise Mzansi, some great things in their manifesto, some stupid things too. I'm not going to find any party that I agree with 100%.
Yeah. No.
But really, what am I bothering with a 1-2% party?
Yeah.
They shouldn't take up any of your time or energy.
Yeah.
Honestly, if we're not dealing with the top 4 or 5 parties, just leave them alone.
Yeah. It's just that, it's going to take them a while, but we need that opposition, man.
No, it's good. I'm not saying they shouldn't be there, but they shouldn't take up so much of our time.
No.
We shouldn't equate them to the other big parties because they're just not. They're important, yes. They have a role to play in civil society. They have a role to play in the political society, but they're not important.
I actually sent a message on Twitter hoping that Rise would pick it up, letting them know that I'm a qualified policy analyst and writer, so I can stand if they want to pay me.
You're going to stand
I'll
for
stand
office?
For them. No, definitely.
It's another thing I'd never do.
Worked in government once and never again. Thank you very much.
Sanela says, I run, and I can safely tell you, Gareth, it is the most self-serving thing you can do. The little mental victory afterwards is the best feeling, and that is what it's all about, not some cause. Liars. We're talking about runners.
There we go.
Well, hey, if you're running and it's keeping you fit, makes you happy, you celebrate that mental victory afterwards. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Why would anyone have a problem? Ryan says in the comments, it's not producer Ryan, but Ryan Nell says, I think it should be mandatory that no politicians are allowed to be over the age of 60. But 60 is still...
That would wipe out pretty much most of our politicians.
Yeah, we wouldn't have any politicians left. I don't think there should be a limit as young as 60. It should be maybe 70, maybe 75.
Maybe, can we just do a competency test?
Well, this is
every year. Like, if you can still, like, Joe Biden would never pass. So, like, if we could just do a test and they can get over another 30% pass, please. Just like a normal, just a test to make sure you're still all there and you can still do your job.
So this is big controversy. I don't know if you guys have seen any of this that's been going on, and we've got to get to Dr. Hanan next, so I'm not going to go on too long about this. Joe Biden's team have announced that he refused to do a mental competency test, to your point, Ryan.
Sure.
He will not do a test of cognitive, what would you call it, resilience, cognitive ability. He's not going to do the test. He's just opted right out, which is a tell on its own, right?
Yeah.
If you're scared to take that test, or if you're unwilling to take that test, then we know that you already know that your result's not going to be
admission of guilt, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you think, as per what Ryan just said now, that politicians, especially the leaders of parties, the people likeliest to be the ones who make legislation, issue orders, run departments, the important people, who we rely on for the state to work properly,
the decision makers,
that those people need to have a competency test? Because you're opening up a whole kettle of fish that you might not want to at this point.
I think it's very
What if you end up
important.
doing IQ tests? What if they start insisting on attitude and personality tests? What if they start, and some of these tests, they might game the system, because you know what politicians are like. So I'm half and half on this. I do think that ultimately the decider needs to be the voting public, who must go, well, we can see this guy. He gives boring speeches. He says, can I go home now? We don't want to vote for that guy.
Yeah.
It's the best guarantee we've got.
And that's all you need, actually, something like that.
So I think it's absolutely disgraceful that Biden's team won't let him do this test. It's
we all know why they won't, though.
Well, because they know he'll fail.
Exactly.
Anyway, someone says here, if Rise Mzansi get 15,000 votes, I'll eat my hat. Sound familiar? I know, but we'll see. We will see. The world is going to change a great deal. Elections in Russia, South Africa, USA, and Indonesia, and in India, actually. There are,
Sure.
Yeah. Elections all over the place this year.
Is there any elections that are doing electronic voting?
More than half the world is going to the polls this year. Yes, there are elections. I mean, there are some of these elections that happen digitally and electronically, but not by the kind of wide margins that make it a majority behavior.
Have you seen the video about where they spoke about how much a vote costs and how much you get paid for voting?
Where is this?
Also, it was an interview that was done. And
where do they pay people for voting? Imagine if they did that.
Yeah.
Sure.
No. They were talking about like how people in the parties are being paid to make sure that they vote for their party. So they were interviewing.
Where?
It was in South Africa.
Really?
So they're saying that they get paid to vote for a specific party. It's scary. I'll try and find it and I'll send it.
That sounds very conspiratorial.
Very hectic.
It is time for us to check in with our shrink. That is Dr. Hanan. We do this every Monday morning. It helps us to just get our shit together. We'll get to some sport with Ryan in a little while too. Yeah. Here is Dr. Hanan Bushkin. Hello, Doc.
Hey guys, how you doing? How's your weekend?
Fantastic. How are you?
Yeah, I'm also good. Busy, crazy, but all good.
Excellent. All right, so let's talk to you a little bit about something that has been going on in the political realm for a little while now. Sunil has a question for you, so I'm going to let him ask you, and then we'll see how you deal with this and how you might deal with it if it was a patient of yours who came to you with this problem.
So it says my mic is muted, but
no, go.
Okay, so in a lot of consultations I've had with people doing my Reiki, individuals around the world, one of the things I've been picking up a lot is that there is a certain role which social conditioning has played that is causing sort of mental health issues because of the pressures of society when you become a man or a woman and the roles that you play in a relationship. And sometimes it's really affecting people because of the pressures. Is like, as a man, you must deliver this, you must deliver that. And now there are women that are able to do what men can do. And what do you suggest? How do I approach this?
What do you mean? Male and female spaces?
Yes, so male and female spaces. So, for example, like, the kitchen is no longer just the space for a woman. A man can cook better than a woman. And some fathers are better than mothers at being mothering. Or the man is not always the breadwinner anymore. And they've gone past feeling emasculated and they're starting to feel actual mental health issues around the fact that they can't be what society has defined a man to be.
Oh boy. All right, Doc, you got any answers for this?
Yeah, well, I'll give you my opinion. Two things that I want to mention. Number one, there's like a social movement where people are told, just be yourself. And I have a big issue with that, because what does it mean? Actually, the most common thing that I say in my practice is, what does it mean? Because I believe definitions are important. So when somebody says to me, just be yourself, what does it mean? Because the reality is that we are different in different scenarios. So you'll see a version of myself with my wife, and you'll see a different version of myself with my children. You'll see a different version of myself speaking to patients, and different version of myself speaking to my tennis friends, and different version of myself speaking to my friends that I go out and talk rubbish with.
Now, that doesn't mean you're schizophrenic, huh?
Not at all. I just am adaptable to different situations. I wear different masks depending on the situation, which is very functional. As a matter of fact, people that don't have this ability to adapt themselves to different scenarios don't cope and don't survive. So the notion of being yourself, just be yourself, is like turning to a chameleon and say, just be green. And just by telling a chameleon to be green, you're taking the essence away from a chameleon. It doesn't survive. And human
Doc,
beings are the same.
can I just interrupt for a second there? Because people often tell me, because I'm a different person when I'm with family to when I'm on the show to when I'm with friends. There's a lot of consistency there, but I am different. I'm putting forward a different version of myself and all the. They're like, well, which one is the real you?
Exactly, which is nonsense. Which one is the real you? Well, I'm all of that. The truth is I'm this and I'm this and I'm this and I'm this, depending on the situation. I'm able to adapt to whoever's sitting in front of me. There's a common thread between all of these masks, let's call it, because you still see that it's me, Hanan, but I've expressed different types of my temperament depending on who I'm sitting with and depending on what I want to create. I have different tools in my toolbox depending on who I'm sitting with and what I want to achieve and what my goal is. And that is very functional. So can I be a manly man in one area and a girly girl in another area? Please believe me, when I was watching the Backstreet Boys and I reminisced about, the 90s and the 2000s, I was a little girl. And when I'm with, trying to do, I don't know, maybe taking the leadership in some areas, and I'm a manly man. Which one am I? Well, depending on the scenario. And that's okay. It's both versions of myself. So to label somebody and say, you are this, is just wrong. It's just not even accurate. And it's not functional if you were just to that. The second thing is that we are socialized into believing that the world works in a particular way. So from the age of 0, we're born into a world, blank slates. We don't know how the world works. And parents, teachers, society, culture, laws, religion teaches us how the world works. Now, some of these teachings are good and some of these teachings are not so good. Now, what defines it as not so good? Well, if I ask you to drive to Joburg or from Joburg to Cape Town, and I give you a roadmap that was drafted in 1876, well, you're just going to get it wrong. You're just going to get lost. And it's not a question of what's wrong with you. You're just following a roadmap that is no longer valid or is outdated. We are given roadmaps by these social constructs, by these social cultures, by these social circles. Our parents give us a roadmap of how the world works. Society gives us a roadmap of how the world works. School gives us a roadmap of how the world works. And some of these roadmaps are valid because I'm able to achieve results. And some of them I have to adapt to and I have to upgrade and update in order for me to function in the world. So the two questions that I would ask you is, one, what is your roadmap? And two, are you able to achieve point A to point B? Are you able to achieve your goals? If you are able to achieve your goals in a relationship, because we're talking about relationship, then your roadmap is accurate. Because if you're not able to achieve those goals, then I would question the roadmap.
Does it help you?
It does help a little bit. I mean, there's a massive struggle at the moment for people who are awakening to find a balance between the masculine energy and the feminine energy, because you don't want to become too much of a ruffian guy in the society we're living in today, and you don't want to be too feminine as well, because then you get labeled with different things. So the roadmap thing I understand, but personally, I do feel there's a lot of unlearning that needs to be happening because of what you're speaking about, which is the socialization processes which is happening in society.
So I wouldn't get bogged down in terms of what mask should I be wearing. The reality is that you got to ask yourself, what am I trying to achieve in this particular relationship? Remember, the right move is dependent on the goal. The right move is dependent on the goal. And I'll just change move to the right mask. The right mask is dependent on the goal. So Sunil, I'll ask you this question. If I phone you up and I say, I want to ask for your advice, should I take a car? Should I take a bus? Should I walk? Should I fly? Should I swim? What's the quickest way to get there? What would you say to me? And
let's talk right now. Let's do WhatsApp. Take the car.
Why? Why take the car? Why is that the quickest way to get there?
Well, it all depends on what options are available at the time.
No. It depends on where I'm going. It depends on where I'm going. Your first question to me would be, where are you going? because that will be dependent, or the answer will be dependent on where I'm going. Because if I'm going across the corridor, taking the car is ridiculous. If I'm going across the country, swimming is crazy. Goal first, what do I want to achieve? And then how am I going to get there? Never strategy on its own. Never. Because that's useless. Where are you going? To just take the car, or to wear mask X, or be a manly man or a girly girl? What does it mean? So, Hanan, I want to be a girly girl, or I want to be a manly man. Okay, where are you going? What do you want to achieve? What do you want to achieve first? But people don't want to set goals, and people don't want to think about what they want to achieve. And the reason why is, one, it's very difficult. Two, people don't want to set themselves up for failure, because setting goals risks failure. And number three, the reason why people don't want to set goals, because goals require you to sacrifice. You have to let go of something. There's no such thing on planet Earth where you commit to a goal and not let go of something else. It doesn't exist. Forget about it. The universe, the moment you're born, says to you, listen, you want something? Okay, cool, but you have to sacrifice something else. There's no option where you can have both. Children want both. Children want to lose weight and have the chocolate cake. Children want to be married and be single. It doesn't work. Adults understand that the moment I commit to a goal, I have to let go of something.
Right.
And I accept the sacrifice. I accept the sacrifice. So the moment I want to achieve X, I have to let go of something. What am I going to sacrifice? So again, what is the goal? And then work out, am I wearing the right mask in order to achieve that goal?
It steps towards it, basically.
All right, exactly. I love that. There we are. You laid it out so clearly for us. So just stop being an asshole. You want to set the goal, and you've got to be willing to sacrifice. No, I think this is important.
Yes.
Because people talk around these things. They don't talk about them. They're like, well, I'm going to try not to upset anybody by saying something that they don't want to hear. But that's why we have you, Dr. Hanan. You tell us whether we want to hear it or not. So I've got this suggestion. Well, here's something. Carl wants next week. He says, can Dr. Hanan discuss pretty privilege and how hot women especially get away with things that less attractive women could be chastised for?
Slay queens.
You want to talk about that next week?
If I want to be cancelled, I must talk about
it.
Well, I'm telling you what's coming up in the next hour. I'm probably going to get cancelled for, because we're going to get someone in who's going to tell us about diabetes, Ozempic, losing weight, all of this stuff. No. Professor.
All your trigger points.
So it's Professor Tess van der Merwe. She's a registered endocrinologist, specialized in the field of obesity for 35 years. So she knows what she's talking about. But I am just sick to death. Everywhere I go, I just see fat people, and they take up all the space. They're in Parliament. They're pulling up to all the takeaway places. They just eat and eat and eat. They leave a mess wherever they go. They break things because they're so fat they don't know how big they are. Walk down a corridor, break all the stuff down the corridor. It's enough already. I've had it. So today we're going to finally have it out about obesity.
So you hate fat privilege.
Go ahead, Doc.
I'm a big fan of taking responsibility. If you want to, how many times have I said this? If you want to have freedom, the other side of the coin of freedom is responsibility. You can't have what you want without taking action and being responsible. You can't blame not your mom, not your dad, not your history, not your, you can make that as an excuse, and you can connect the dots in a way that gets you stuck. But if you want to have freedom, you got to take responsibility. You are the owner, the driver of your life. I don't accept genetics. I don't accept I've got a terrible temperament. I've got a terrible mom. I had a terrible history to get you moved. And I don't have time. I don't accept that. Where there is a will, there's a way. Do I have time for one story?
Yep.
So this is a story that was told to me by a patient of mine. I love this story. This is the bus story. So this patient of mine told me her grandfather was arrested. He was a bus driver. He was arrested for carrying 70 people on his bus when he was only allowed 32. Anyway, the cops stop him, they arrest him, they put him, he goes to court, and the judge says to him, why did you carry 70 people as opposed to 32 that you're allowed to? And this bus driver says, I didn't carry 70 people, I just carried 32. The cop got it wrong. So the judge says to him, but that's what the cop says. And the bus driver says, well, that's not what happened. And he challenged the judge to come outside and try to fit more than 32 people on his bus. So the judge takes him up on the challenge. And they go outside and they fit 1, they fit 5, they fit 10, 15, 20, 25, 27, 30, 32, and they can't fit one more person. So the judge lets them off. But at the end of the court, at the end of the judgment, the judge turns to the bus driver and says, tell me, between you and I, how did you fit 70 people on the bus? How did you do it? And the bus driver said something really interesting. He said, the difference between my 70 people and your 32 is my 70 really wanted to get on the bus. Where there's a will, there's a way. If you want to make something happen, you will make it happen. You wouldn't blame anything. As a matter of fact, the moment you look backwards and blame, you are going to get stuck.
And those 70 people were thin as well. So
that's what I thought he was going with it as well.
Exactly. All right, Doc, thank you very much. We're going to find out all about this. We're going to speak to Dr. Tess just now. All of that and more on the way. Dr. Hanan, we'll see you next week.
See you then. Bye, guys.
Thanks.
Cheers, Doc.
Yeah, I'm telling you, the next hour, just take cover. If you're enormously fat, today's your day. It's payday. Today, you're going to find out exactly how I feel about you in case you've been in the dark about it.
Oh, no.
No, you don't like this. Huh? You're not very confrontational.
No. I can be if I want to.
Well, I'm not arguing with the doctor. She's not the one I have a problem with. It's fat people in general.
I'm going to suck my stomach in for this entire hour.
Yeah, we're going to get into this. Find out all the most important things you need to know. And we'll also get to some sport with Ryan. We'll start off the next hour with that because we've got to have some reports on how the various teams did that Ben told us about on Friday. All right, all of that and more on the way. Don't go anywhere, cliffcentral.com. It is Monday.
This week on the Auto Trader podcast
is another race that's coming up.
Oh, wait a minute. Is this in January?
This is in January, 5th to the 19th of January.
Are you going to Saudi?
I'm going to Saudi Arabia.
No, so you're going to Dakar. Dude,
Dakar!
I did Dakar in 2018. Yeah. I was in South America.
South American version.
I did Peru. Very similar in the Sea of Dunes, sand, off-roading nuts.
Catch us every Monday at 9 a.m. on YouTube and on autotrader.co.za.
All right, Monday morning, cliffcentral.com. So many things to still get to. We've got to talk about some of the stuff in the news as well. But since you've joined us, it's 7 o'clock and time for us to check in on some of the results, sporting results from the weekend. So what do you got for us, Ryan?
All right, let's start off with cricket. So Australia versus South Africa, the women one-off test match. Australia won by an innings and 284 runs.
Very good.
Then we have India versus England, the third test, and India won by 434 runs there.
Okay.
Getting into rugby, URC, Leinster beat Benetton.
Leinster. You're going to Ireland, you've got to get it right. Leinster.
Yes, I can actually go watch the stuff there. I can give you live reports from.
I don't think
the
anyone's
stadiums.
waiting for your live reports. But again, what's the score? Leinster and Benetton?
47-18.
Okay.
Lions beat the Bulls 25-10, and
It's the Bulls. No, I'm joking.
I was about to say it. I was like, I've been saying that wrong my whole life.
Okay, and the one that everybody was excited about was the Sharks and the Stormers.
Yes, and the Stormers came out on top 25-21
Oh,
to the Sharks. So.
that's why there was a storm last night.
All right, PSL.
PSL, now, you see, I love getting these reports back from Ben because he likes to be a bit cheeky. So, if you play on super bets and you place bets, Ben is your go-to guy, and he's been right for many, many things. So he puts here, Sundowns 1, Pirates 1, in brackets, I called it.
He did.
He did call
He
it.
said exactly that.
So you know where to put your money on Fridays. Listen to Ben. Getting into Premier League, Liverpool beat Brentford 4-1. Arsenal thrashed Burnley 5-0. Chelsea and Man City drew 1-1. And Man United beat Luton Town 2-1. Then finally, let's end it off with some UFC. UFC 298. Ilya Topura knocked out Alexander Volkanovski in the second round to become the new featherweight champion.
Ding, ding. That's
it.
Beyond the Scoreboard. Weekend sports recap with Superbets. Superbets supports responsible gambling. Strictly no under 18s. Winners know when to stop. The South African Responsible Gambling Foundation's toll-free counseling hotline, 0800 006 008.
Yes.
So, so many things to still get to this morning. I do want to look at some news quickly before we get to Dr. Tess and fat people. So apparently the DA has rejected the ANC's request for more time to make public its cadre deployment records. I don't know why it's taking them so long to just come out with this. They've obviously, either they haven't been keeping records or nothing's been in writing, both of which should be suspicious in and of themselves. But DA leader John Steenhuisen said the ANC is begging for more time to avoid exposing the president's role in state capture. That's this president during the time that Jacob Zuma was president. They will not grant the ANC's request. Good. Hold their feet to the fire. That's good. That's what we want opposition parties to be doing. And Donald Trump was fined $355 million and banned from running businesses in New York. This is just unbelievable. I mean, whether or not you like Donald Trump, and many people do not, it has to strike everybody as completely obvious and transparent at this point that they're throwing everything they can at this man to try and derail him ahead of the elections.
That's exactly what it is.
Right?
It's like sabotage almost.
I mean, it's completely sabotage. And it's now starting to have a negative effect on Democrats, as in people who before were not sympathetic to Trump at all, didn't like him, didn't find anything to connect with him on, are now looking at this going, this is actually a witch hunt. They're doing some unbelievably unscrupulous things just to derail the man. It's beggars belief. Anyway, so what they did is a lawsuit filed by New York Attorney General Letitia James, which accused him of manipulating property values to get loans and insurance. Why now, though, is the question. He's been operating in New York for years, 4 or 5 decades at least. Probably a whole lot more than that. Judge Arthur Engeron said Trump had shown no remorse for his actions and his penalties were justified. He claimed the case is politically motivated. Well, just to prove the point, the New York governor, Kathy Hochul is her name, came out just yesterday, and I don't know if she knew she was being recorded. You've got to assume that politicians know they're always being recorded. She said, if you're a property developer in New York and you've done what Trump did, don't worry, we're not coming after you. It's only him because it's political. So that should close the case. Signed, sealed, delivered. If the governor of New York said that, that should mean another epic failure in their attempt to block Trump from just running. The same thing happened in Georgia, where it turns out the attorney general there is sleeping with the guy that she hired to put the case together against Trump. I mean, it's all falling to pieces. It's so obviously bullshit. And if you don't like Trump, then you've got to have better people on your side.
And we think we've got comedy here.
Yeah. Just get better people on your side if your side's so right.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Okay, so some other things we do in just a little bit. We will get to obesity. So one of the things about obesity that I want to tackle with Dr. Tess, and I think that this is probably something a lot of people in South Africa are aware of. I know some people who are on it, is this Ozempic stuff. You heard it's like the miracle cure. Everyone in Hollywood is using it to lose weight.
Never heard it.
It's a diabetic medication that they inject themselves with. And then you lose weight like you can't believe.
I've been hearing a lot about
way
this.
better than my little piddly 4 kilograms in 2 weeks.
I thought eating 2 eggs a day would be great, but
Is that what you're doing?
I'm doing 2 eggs a day.
No, so apparently this is what people are doing. And I want to find out if it's safe, what she knows about it, and what she can tell us about, because diabetes is also a big problem in South Africa. And they're linked. You know, diabetes and obesity are linked. We'll find out about that link too. I have 1,000 rand on Trump winning the election, says Carl. I really need him to win. Okay, well now you've got a dog in the fight.
Yeah, well that's it. Now you're invested.
1,000 rand.
Yeah.
I wonder what the odds are on that. That must be heavily weighed on the one side.
I don't know what the odds are. We must look them up. They change all the time though.
Of course.
Right. No, Gareth, Hollywood is all about the adrenochrome. Now this is a thing I've heard about. This is like this conspiracy that there's this stuff in your blood that keeps you young. I don't know whether this is true or not either. So I'm just saying it's a conspiracy theory because I can't prove right or wrong.
Have you heard about lion's mane?
Lion's mane mushrooms? Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
Apparently that reverses aging. Yes.
Really?
Yeah. The mushroom itself
reverses aging. I've heard that it has all
aging.
kinds of health benefits.
And
but
it
it's not one.
reprograms the brain cells and all these wonderful things. And
What are you on?
me,
What are you taking?
Enduromax.
You have some kind of routine?
I do. I mean, I'm besides
Take
the
tons of supplements, no?
no supplements.
Okay.
Meditation and rest. I found that there's a lot of importance in rest when it comes to weight gain and also just making sure the body functions properly. I mean, I was actually instructed by my physician last year to socialize and go out more and also rest more at the same time.
Why were you becoming a bit reclusive?
Yeah, I was being a bit doing too much at the same time. Wearing too many hats or too many masks, as the doc and I'm called.
Correct.
So I had to reinvent a lot of my lifestyle. Party harder when I can, and then relax and rest more as well.
So Lotus says that Australia has a shortage of those diabetic injections because there's so many people there using Ozempic. Interesting,
Oh, wow.
huh?
This has only come up recently. You know, I've never heard about Ozempic since like last week.
I heard about it for the first time probably 2.5 years ago, so a while back. And a friend of mine was on it, and he said, I didn't ask him how he got it because it was way ahead of anyone else.
What happens if a thin person takes it?
Well, he wasn't exactly fat, but he said, I can eat whatever I want and I don't put on weight. Yeah.
Go back.
That's why I want to figure out what's going on here. I don't want to miss out on the snacking.
No.
There's a way to get both. But as Dr. Hanan said, just to go back to him as you did, there's no risk without reward, and there's no reward without some sacrifice.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
You got to get that right too.
I'm just thinking now I can go back to eating 3 bunny chows a month.
That's really your thing, the bunny chows. It's not stereotypical.
Did the
at all.
song get you free bunny chows?
It did actually. I mean, if you watch the music video on YouTube, you'll see I'm eating the bunny chows throughout it. It's really actually very
So I
nice.
only got you a few for the actual making.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
just for the video.
Yeah.
Then it's
yeah.
not
I
like
thought maybe
it's
you
not
could
like
go
you've
to
got
like
aunties dropping off bunny chows at his front door. Eh?
Not even one sambar.
Not
one
even
sambar.
one. Did you? Ryan says he was at the casino for New Year and he heard this voice and he recognized it was you. You were emceeing the whole thing.
Yes, I was doing the New Year's
You
countdown.
did the countdown?
I did the countdown. And then as I went outside to go and do big speech to 3,000, 4,000 people.
Drunks.
Yeah, basically.
3,000 drunks.
I can attest he's brilliant because we actually, funny enough, when I first met Sunil here, I didn't realize we actually share a mutual friend. So one of my friends I studied with in college, sound school, he was actually working at the casino at the time. And so he would set up all the sound for Sunil to do his MC thing at this casino. And every year for like the past 3 or 4 years, we've gone to the casino for New Year's. It's just a cool vibe. It's something different. It's quite fun. And so this year, I don't know why, but I forgot. And I just heard this countdown going. And I was like, wait, I remember that voice.
So you recognized his voice straight away.
Yeah.
Very impressive, right?
Didn't you get a kiss on stage?
Oh, okay. Well, about
What
that.
happened?
So I was on stage. And I was like, oh, I hope you kiss somebody at midnight, blah, blah. And then I haven't kissed anybody. And then this really drunk guy jumped onto the stage.
I gave you a
kissed
kiss.
me. Security got involved. Oh, it was.
wow.
So my first kiss this year was
Horrific.
a lovely man wearing a cowboy hat.
All right, let's turn our attention to the discussion around obesity. This is something I'm not unwilling to get into trouble over because obesity is something I've expressed my opinion of many times, but it's not an educated opinion. I'm not an expert in this field. Someone who is our next guest. And I'm thrilled that we finally have somebody who can set me right where I'm wrong and also explain some of the stuff to us, because Professor Tess van der Merwe is a registered endocrinologist specialized in the field of obesity for 35 years. Big emphasis on the fact that it is an internal medical disease that requires expert physician care and compassion. And I suppose that's where I'm lacking, is the compassion. Dr. Tess, nice to have you on. How are you?
Good morning, Gareth. No, full of the joys of life. Thank you.
I'm delighted to hear it, but let's just get straight into it, like an obese person would supper. What is obesity? What do we classify as obesity? Because I hear loads of things about BMI. I hear about morbid obesity. What are the actual technical definitions?
It's gone through several rounds of review, Gareth, and I think that your timing in terms of this program is absolutely perfect, because we're coming out with a Lancet white draft paper within the next couple of months, where many more factors than just the BMI index will be taken into the definition of obesity. But roughly speaking, still for the moment, we would say that you are at a normal weight at a BMI 25 to 30, and then obese at 30 to 35, and generally speaking, we would call people morbidly obese at a BMI above 35. Although I do have to emphasize, we're trying to get away from the derogatory terminology such as morbid obesity, and rather beginning to move to more appropriate terminology such as people living with obesity, or more specifically, persons living with obesity.
Okay, well, you can be gentle about it. I don't have to be. I just say the word fat, and I don't allow any fat people into my house, because they break things and they will eat remorselessly, and then there'll be nothing left for me. I am interested in what the causes of obesity are, besides obviously overeating, which is an easy one for us to mock and make fun of. But what are the real physiological causes of obesity, and how do you even know that you're down the road where there's damage being done?
It's complicated, Gareth. I think the WHO has most definitively moved it out of the lifestyle diseases category, although you cannot disregard it, because it certainly would be one of the triggers, lifestyle. But if one can put it very simplistically, there is a body stat in the brain. I don't want to become too technical, but it's located in the hypothalamus in the brain. It's a nanometer small little gland that literally stores your body stat. And there comes a point in some people's life where it does not respond to the peripheral input signals. But in other words, what would be coming in from the pancreas, from the liver, from the muscle, from the fat. There's a total connect in a normal person between what goes on in the body stat of the hypothalamus and what the peripheral signaling would entail. And that's complicated. We can leave that out of the picture. But very simplistically, there becomes a point, or you get to a point where that hypothalamus becomes like a runaway train. It becomes automated, and strangely, in the human being, it will then always defend the previous highest set point. So if your highest weight is going to be tomorrow, that is the weight that we as endocrinologists would have to fight. If that was your highest weight 10 years ago, we're still fighting that because that is stored permanently and very accurately so down to a half a kilo. So, of course, you can now say, well, what led to all of that? Well, it's partly evolutionary. There was a time when being at a higher weight was appropriate for Homo sapiens. We could climb trees, run away, fight the enemy, and so on. But now we're living in an environment where we have not evolved genetically to the point where we should have as human beings. And yes, your genetic susceptibility, of course, is there. If I can put it very simplistically, there's your blueprint. Nobody can change that blueprint. That is what you've got. That's what we work with. But every gene in the body codes for a particular function downstream. And that is where the whole concept of environmental factors and epigenetics come into the picture, because it has the ability to make that gene function in a dysfunctional way. So yes, we do have multiple risks. Of course, if you want to talk about environmental, we can go very broad. But I think, Gareth, that should be a topic for a different time. And
well,
yes, we need to spend time on this, a lot more time, because I think it's
are there obvious and achievable ways that people can arrest the slide into obesity and perhaps more of those complicating factors? And we'll get to some of those in a moment. I especially want to have your expertise on the links between diabetes and obesity, because they are linked as well. Maybe you can explain to us why so many people who are obese suffer from diabetes, and how it can lead people to be obese from the other side. But a lot of this is like, what can I do for myself? Personal responsibility, as opposed to blaming the environment. Oh, because there's climate change, I'm fat. You know what I mean?
You've got to take both sides of the coin, Gareth. You've got to firstly seek medical help, because it takes a metabolist rather than an endocrinologist. And regretfully, there are not many of them in the world to understand at what point that set point has become autonomous, which of course takes you into a completely different avenue of treatment compared to where it's just a lifestyle problem. Lifestyle problem is somebody who goes to Mauritius, has a ball, puts on 10 kilos, comes back, and is still able to lose that weight very comfortably without too much effort. But when the patient has reached a resting metabolic rate that is slow from various metabolic factors, you have to start regarding it as a medical disease. And it has got medical disease status with the WHO now. And I think that is where we've got to be compassionate towards certain people who's had a long-standing battle, because it's not an easy problem to solve. And if you look at the world, we now have as many, 2.8 billion obese people, or overweight then, in the world. BMI above 30 as we have for malnutrition. So it's the biggest disease of our time that
isn't it even more on the obese side? Like certainly in human history, there have never been this many fat people in measurable human history.
Yes. So generally speaking, on a large scale, we still use BMI. We can refer you to your listeners to the SASA website. It's basically weight divided by weight squared, where we will say, well, now you've reached the point of obesity. When you have any form of associated diseases, and we don't even use the terminology comorbidity anymore because it's once again, we're trying to desensitize that. We are saying, well, you have associated diseases. And in the Lancet paper, it's going to be very prominent that it's very broad-based. If you suffering severe anxious depression as a result from your weight, that is significant. If you have diabetes, it's significant. If you have lost your quality of life due to that, that is very significant. And it will definitely not be a reference scale that will refer only to, well, have I got the standard things that most people look for, hypertension, diabetes, and hypercholesterolemia? Because like you said right in the beginning, rightfully so, Gareth, these people do not lead a normal lifestyle. They function to move around in society, and they very often are ridiculed, and they're struggling. And
I know that, but that's really like that's a thing for you as their doctor, if you are their doctor, and it's for them to deal with. The rest of us can't be blamed because you can't stop putting your hand in the bowl of chips, shoving them down your throat. And I do think that we've got to also there's a little bit of tough love that's required here, because a lot of these people, I've seen these shows, I'm sure you have too, doctor, these shows on TV where they have these enormously fat people who just eat and eat and eat, and they lie. They say, oh no, I don't eat that much. Then you put a camera in their fridge and they're looting the fridge every night for 3 or 4 hours, non-stop, just guzzling down whatever the hell they can find. Pickled onions,
getting picked up by cranes,
eggs, a whole hind quarter of a donkey, whatever they can find.
You're right, Gareth, but every word is correct. But here's the mind shift that we need in the world. It's not the fact that you're eating. It is the why are you eating like that scenario.
But you remember Austin Powers, fat bastard, says, I eat because I'm unhappy, and I'm unhappy because I eat. So is it that's a mental health thing more than it is a physiological thing, right?
Yes. You 100% again. Mental health forms an enormous part of the psychological makeup of these people. We're dealing with a very high level of anxiety, anxious depression, borderline personalities are frequently found within these patients, and they will try and exonerate themselves from blame. I think where you have to be very mature in your approach is, as a specialist in this field, to say, well, okay, so I know all of that. This is the kind of person that's going to step into my office. This is what I'm expecting. That we can work on. Those are what I call modifiable issues. Mostly, not in everybody. You need a lot of cognitive behavior treatment there, but the reality is, and you cannot take away from it, that unless you can get to that hormonal cascade within the hypothalamus that will control your body stat, you will still not have achieved anything. And I think that is where we've got to be very mature about it. So if you're sitting with a real hormonal dysfunctionality that is controlled at a very automated level and has developed over many years, then we've got to accept that as it is, and then say, right, from here onwards, who goes into which stream of treatment? Because again, obesity is no longer a blanket treatment. You cannot, for a person at a BMI of 30, have the same approach, for instance, as for a person at a BMI of 50. They're vastly different treatment streams, and it takes a lot of experience.
I know that that Sunil and Ryan have probably got a bunch of questions for you, but I just want to quickly finish off on that topic I broached a moment ago about the other correlated diseases and the difficulty that, for example, diabetes introduces into the equation, and heart disease, because we know that's the biggest killer. I think it's still the biggest killer in South Africa. And heart disease is inextricably linked to obesity.
Correct. But they are downstream consequences of an inherent disease that you first got to fix. And without fixing those, the chances that you will succeed downstream is very little. So yes, we take all of that into account. And in some patients, you will say, well, you're a candidate for medical treatment only, but we will focus on correcting all the associated diseases as well, in the hope that maybe we'll bring down the economic cost factor in one sense, but also the mortality and the morbidity, in other words, the crippling and the death rate of what is associated with these associated diseases. It's complex, Gareth. It's not as simple as it looks at a first glance of, well, this is just somebody eating way too much. I hope I've answered that question.
No, it helps. I mean, listen, I understand, but we're also then, once we start dealing with the pancreas and diabetes, it's obviously a lot more complicated than just that. Okay, so you guys go for it, because I'll get to Ozempic later on. I know everybody's asking you about that at the moment, so we got to get to that question too.
I just want to ask, like, at what point does surgery come into place? Like, at what point do you say, you know what, maybe we just need to take this into a more surgical thing to actually take the weight off, or do you just prefer naturally just to try and lose it?
So let's look at what we have got available in the marketplace. We've got hormones that can basically copy what we're achieving with bariatric surgery. Yes, they're far from ideal. They are, in certain cases, they've been around for a while. They are being described off-label for obesity, but there are molecules that has come onto the market now that has been approved by the FDA directly for obesity, also in the hormonal category. At what point? Well, that is exactly what this white draft paper is going to be all about. And that is at any point where the patient has got any form of consequence for their obesity, regardless of whether that is loss of quality of life, or diabetes, or heart disease, or developing anxious depression, anything that could be associated. So you've got to bring, there has to be a lot of personalization in your approach. Let's take an example. You've got somebody who's maybe in the entertainment industry at a BMI of 29, which theoretically speaking is not in the obese category. It's overweight. But
I was going to say, who told you? Who told you?
What's going on here? Oh my gosh, what's happening? Who's been sharing the secrets?
Yeah,
it's not ideal for them to be at a BMI of 29. It impacts on what they're going to achieve and how they're going to perceive themselves, and to what extent they're going to achieve success within that domain. Or you may have a housewife from Mooikloof that really doesn't need it at a BMI of 29, but is beginning to suffer from anxious depression because there's peer pressure. So, yes, so I think although we use the definition, strictly speaking, that you qualify from a BMI of 30, there may be lower BMI categories. Where does it become? Let's rather look at the opposite side of the coin. At what point does it become non-negotiable? At a BMI of 35 and above, it becomes non-negotiable.
Sure.
That you can no longer just look at this and say, well, this is the life I'm leading because they're costing the state and the medical aids a lot of money.
Right.
No,
Yeah,
costing me money.
Now you're coming to the point of accountability, which I like very much. So you have to at some point say, well, I have an accountability here to also fix my life. It can never be either or. But then how do you fix it? And that is where you've got to bring the science into it. But in other words, you've got to say, is this person already at a point where the hypothalamus has become fixed in terms of its body stat? Or could we still do it with medical management, such as with the GIP and the GLP receptors, which really it's the first really big development in 10 years. I mean, in America, they're very fortunate. They now have, from December, they've got both the GLP and the GIP molecule all in one that has been approved for the FDA, not off-label like Ozempic, but directly for obesity management. But then you also get to that point where you've got to look at the outcome very carefully and say, well, if you're dealing with a patient at a BMI of 40, for instance, do you go for bariatric surgery now? And the answer is unquestionably yes, if you can afford it.
And
that's
I mean, they talk about, having your stomach closed. What is it? They basically restrict. They restrict. They restrict the amount of. What's that?
No. Well, no, not anymore, Gareth. Those procedures, and I feel very strongly that they should just fall by the wayside. There's no real place for them in modern medicine anymore.
Okay.
If you function within an internationally accredited center, and I'm glad you brought up this point because that's a point very close to my heart. Balloons, plications, and so on and so on. If you're going to do this, do it properly. Then go and do one of the hormonal procedures. In other words, you're going to have to go for a procedure that modifies, or where 80% of the action that you are going to achieve will be hormonally induced. In other words, what has happened is over 30 years, we've just become clever enough to work out which hormone will land where in the brain by modifying what part of the gut. Ultimately, I think we will be working stereotactically on the hypothalamus, but that's some way off. But you have to then go in and hormonally fix what you've got to fix. So yes, there is a restrictive element to the hormonal operations, but it's very short-lived. It's for no longer than maybe 4 to 5 weeks, and that is simply just because we have included some stapling of the stomach, not to have the long-term outcome of necessarily decreasing the volume, but rather because we are eliminating once again some of those hormonal input signals that would be going to the hypothalamus.
What about forced treadmills, compulsory treadmills?
I simply love that. I love that. Okay, so let's look at what is achievable with that, because again, we've got to be guided by the science and not by our emotion here.
Sure.
No, not a successful tool. for the simple reason that with most of these very overweight people, they would have gone through so many cycles of weight gain and weight loss that by the time they end up where they end up, they've got such a slow resting metabolic rate that the calorie deficit that they can create on a daily basis with training is simply just not enough to get them there. So maybe these very same people, when they were 18 years, would have had a resting metabolic rate of 3,000 calories per day, but they have now ended up in a place where they've got a resting metabolic rate of 1,400 or 500 if we're lucky, through various mechanisms which we don't have to discuss now. And you cannot create a calorie deficit in these people that is of a sufficient nature. However, what I do like about your statement is there's absolutely no point in going through an entire treatment program, getting to the other side with the potential of fixing your life and taking ownership and having walked the road of contemplation, and then do nothing to sustain it. That is where the accountability comes in, and where you've got to say to the patient, right, this you've now moved from point A to point B, but at point B, this is what is going to be expected from you.
I don't know. There are no fat people during a famine. I mean, they just don't, you know. So I hear all of this, and I love the way, you know, someone said in the comments earlier, it's people living with obesity, or as opposed to like obese people. But I know, doctor, you have to move with the times, and these are the kinds of things that have happened, and you're giving us the proper definitions, which I appreciate enormously. I mean, I don't in any way mock or ridicule those things, but I do mock or ridicule fat people because I believe in tough love, and I do believe in the power of negative reinforcement. Nonetheless, I'm not going to win with everybody. I won with someone called Fat Pat many years ago. She wrote a book about losing weight, and she credited me in the opening by saying I was so mean that she felt she had to prove to me that she could lose the weight. Pat got into it.
You're not entirely wrong there either. Fat love, no, that is not what we want.
What do you think of this body positivity movement? Because that's the opposite of me.
Look, let me try and come from a different angle to make it more approachable. Mm-hmm. If you're training a dog, would you hit it repeatedly?
Yes.
To keep distance? No, you wouldn't. I bet you wouldn't.
Negative reinforcement. Same with a child.
That's we can work
Why is
our
it
way
quiet,
around.
Sunil?
I'm just thinking.
You don't approve of my methods.
I'm just thinking of the trauma. And now I'm listening to the doctor speaking as well, and all these medical terms which sound great, and I can't spell half of them. But I'm also thinking like the role in which there must be some sort of counseling or healing that is evolved around the fact that, oh my gosh, my BMI is too high. Oh, I'm gonna die if I don't step on the treadmill. Gareth's gonna come hit me.
You're gonna die.
Yeah, you're gonna die. I'm
Isn't
the
that
verge
enough
of death.
motivation? I mean, what do you want? Must I put bells and whistles and crystal healing around it?
Crystal healing, well, or Reiki. But is there some sort of like counseling or support groups out there for people who go and get stapled?
They all get together and then they eat.
Get stapled, or they get told about the hypothalamus. They're told about the.
No, this is not. Just ignore Sunil's question. Doc, you don't have to worry.
With the discussion.
Ignore that quote. It's a terrible question. You don't have to give that any serious consideration, Doctor.
Gareth's going to hit me
afterwards. It's 100% right, and it's a mindset that is going to be very difficult to move, I think, in the world today, given the lifestyle that we have worldwide. And it brings me back then, Gareth, if you want, and I like your approach in a way, and that's the whole concept that we've lost probably worldwide, and that is the concept of accountability. Personal accountability has been slanted by the media in that it has given many diseases, not just obesity, many issues. You can go corruption way for that way. It's given it legitimacy, where there should be no legitimacy. And there is a point at which you have to be very blunt with the patient and say to them, look, this is what's going to be required of you. You are going to die. You cannot afford to carry on staying in your corner, feeling sorry for yourself. If you want to get out of this corner, then you can get out of it, but then get out of it with a positive mindset and the right help. What for me, if you really want to go that way, Gareth, is far more concerning, is affordability. How if you're dealing with 2.8 billion overweight people out there, I can tell you not even 2 to 4% of that population density will have the means to even access, well, the coffee and cake group, as I call them. So how do we go about this? It's a difficult one. I've gone over this many times in my head, and I think that's the point at which you've got to take a little bit of a philosophical angle with all of this and say, well, not everybody can have a kidney transplant either, but are we going to focus on helping those that can be helped and take those people forward, or are we going to waste a lot of negative emotional energy where clearly we're not going to have any form of an outcome whatsoever? That there is a lot of ethical reasoning that comes into that. I don't know, Gareth. I think this is such a deep topic that.
So what about Ozempic? Because people are hailing this as a fantastic breakthrough. I see Hollywood stars and rich people all over the world. Oprah's on it. Yeah, I mean, listen, Oprah's done every fad diet in the universe. And whenever you think of Oprah, you still think she's fat.
No, but Oprah always implied to go the healthy route, and then people discovered later she was on Ozempic.
What do we think of Ozempic, Doc?
What do I think of Ozempic? I think Ozempic has been overtaken. It was never approved by the FDA for weight loss as such, but it was approved for diabetes. And again, for me, just look at the outcome data. The outcome data will tell you everything. It's actually a molecule that dates back to 2013, believe it or not. And the reality is it's by no means a magic bullet, but for those, and now we come back to the 20 or maybe just over 20% where it may have a success story. If it's going to work, then do it. But there are other molecules in the marketplace that I think are going to be blockbusters, and they will come through the market thick and fast then. If that is going to give you a better outcome in terms of your associated diseases that will go hand in hand with the loss of weight, then do it. I don't care if it's part of the coffee and cake party, but at least we will have a positive move in bringing down the health economic expenses of what we are facing in terms of both obesity and associated diseases. So, in principle, if there are no contraindications, then use it. My view of the future going from here forward is that the molecules that will be coming through will become stronger, but they will always only have a place in the lower BMI groups. I have, in principle, got a bit of a problem putting a person at a BMI of 45 onto Ozempic simply to achieve maybe 5 kilos of weight loss at the expenditure that it comes with, because then you have not achieved what you wanted to. Then the better and the far more wise step is to say, well, you can go through bariatric surgery, where it is supported, by the way, by many medical aids, because they understand the consequences of this disease, where we're looking at anything from 44 to 60% of weight loss, depending on what exact technical procedure you're going to apply. So if we want to then number crunch, I think at the end of the day, it's about where are we going to get the best value for money? And it sounds hard that we should talk about a disease that a lot of people is really honestly struggling with in terms of rands and cents. But this is the reality that we are living with. In terms of the people just taking it to have a 5 kilo weight loss to fit into the red dress, well, can you really stop them?
Then do it. So you're saying that do we know anything about the long-term effects of this this stuff? Do we know whether or not there are other contraindications, side effects?
No, they're good, Gareth. With the exception of the worry around pancreas cancer and thyroid cancer, the problem is the sustainability again. And now you're looking at somebody who goes, and let me be very blatantly clear about this. The patient goes on to one of the GIP or the GLP antagonists or agonists, sorry, and you achieve a 5 kilo or a 5% or maybe even a 7% weight loss, exceptional cases, maybe 10%. The minute you stop that drug, you're back to where you were, unless you've managed to either reset that hypothalamus, which would require, to my own mind, at least a year's worth of treatment, or you've gone and changed your lifestyle in that time period to enhance your resting metabolic rate, or you say, well, at least I've now managed to get myself onto a medical aid where I can go and have bariatric surgery. But to say that you're going to be on Ozempic for forever, which is basically what it boils down to, if you want to really have a success rate, is not a cost-effective tool for me at this stage.
And it is really expensive, right?
I think in terms of the population income out there, it is almost unachievable. It is very expensive. I do believe that in time things will get better. Because as more clones come onto the market, the price will come down. However, I do believe that the molecules that are coming out now, even though they're going to be very expensive, will have better diagnostic criteria on outcome linked to them. But ultimately, you have to decide not where am I heading to with this in 2 weeks from now or 2 months from now. For me, the minimum would be is to say, well, where are we heading with this in this particular patient in 2 years from now?
Right. And then there are obviously, and again, we've got to be clear about this. Like this does not constitute medical advice. You still need to, in your own independent way, go and figure out what is right for you if you are obese or overweight. And again, I do want to also draw a distinction between overweight and obese, because as you said, there are lots of people who go in and out of, being a little bit chubby, feeling a little bit less confident. Maybe they've gone super, super thin. We will spend another show talking about people who are much, much too thin and who don't eat at all and who have all kinds of other problems around undereating. But I mean, I came up with this diet a couple of years ago, Doc, the eat less, run more diet, and it still seems to be the best. I mean, if you just eat less and you run more, chances are you won't be enormous.
We've got to work that sentence out of the equation, Gareth.
Telling me it's a terrible. Are you denying the efficacy of my diet? Is this it? Finally, I've reached the point where the doctor has told me you're talking shit, Gareth.
No, you're lucky enough physiologically to still have a pliable hypothalamus. That's why you succeeded, and your body's set point was still modifiable. But it's not the approach that we can take for a disease of enormous impact worldwide, because it's what.
Yeah.
And again, for me, look, and I'm back to the word of accountability. There's also
Sure.
accountability on the side of the doctor's functioning. Telling the patient to go and eat less, train more is a one-liner that you can send the patient out of your office with in less than 2 minutes, and a script maybe another minute. And it's less of an effort. And accountability that should be exercised in the process towards that patient is just not there. And that is, I think, where a lot of patients, persons living with obesity become utterly frustrated, is because that is exactly what they get when they step in to get help. They get the one-liner.
Doc, can I ask you quickly? Let's be serious. I'm not a dietitian or an endocrinologist. I'm not in any position to offer anyone advice. If you take my advice, you're an idiot. But who are the biggest patients you've done bariatrics on? I mean, like, how big are the biggest that you've actually helped?
The biggest that I personally, I mean, look, I've taken 4,000 patients through the process. So obviously my spectrum of experiences is much larger. It was around 340. But then I've also taken patients. Yes.
Wow.
I've also
got its own gravitational pull. Yeah. Managed to avoid being pulled into the black hole, a neutron fucking star. That's insane. 300 and Doc, where do you fit someone like that into a hospital?
They sit around the house. They sit around the house.
What happens to them?
Treating the biggest patient, but you should ask me the opposite side of that coin.
What do you mean?
What is the lowest weight that we've treated?
Well, we'll save that for another discussion. But today we're going to focus on the overweight, not the underweight. I think the one is we've got a much bigger problem in South Africa with obesity. Do we not?
Massive. Gareth, we cannot emphasize this enough. It's completely out of control.
You could tell if you just look at Parliament. I mean, there are so many people in Parliament. No, I'm not being horrible here. This is like it's a perfectly observable phenomenon. And anyone with eyes can see what I mean. We have huge numbers of people who are just completely out of control. Now, I mean, I can be mean. I don't have to be mean about this. That also is a huge drain on the resources of medical aids, of the healthcare industry, of those people's own savings, their own ability to manage money, because they're constantly going to have to seek health solutions to their very obvious problems. What is South Africa's relationship with obesity, and whereabouts in the world are we? Are we on the very, very dangerous side of things? Are we somewhere in the middle? We're
amongst the top 5 countries in terms of obesity.
Top 5?
I believe it.
Yes, we are. Sure. And we definitely, in the whole of sub-Saharan Africa, we've got no competition whatsoever in that field. It's if you looked at it very simplistically, you can say 2 out of every 3 women living in the urban area. It's a little bit less in the rural area, and 1 out of every 3rd male. Now, that is summarizing it very simplistically. But
why is there, just out of interest, why is there a difference between male and female and such a? I mean, that's 2/3 as opposed to 1/3.
They have a journey through life, Gareth, that makes them hormonally far more susceptible to having an influence on that hypothalamus, puberty, childbirth, menopause. So, but again, coming back to Parliament. Okay, so yes, my question to Parliament, are you really leading by example, or
no?
Yeah, that's exactly it. People look up to them, and then
exactly. So we're failing in leadership skills there, dismally, as far as I'm concerned. I think that they're not setting a very good example at many levels, and it irks me at a personal level as well if they have lunch breaks filled with buffets laid to the brim.
Yeah, especially with the unhealthy food.
Yeah.
No, I mean unhealthy food. South Africans also, we have to own up to the fact that apparently Bloemfontein has more fast food takeout joints than almost any other place in Africa.
Wow.
Well, I mean, this is like speaking to my friends in Ireland. He literally phoned me and he was like, Ryan, there's like no fat people here because they have to walk everywhere. They have to take
we have a lot of poor people who walk a long way.
Yes.
But I think
in the urban areas, not so much.
So is it true that, I mean, again, these are statistics I've heard, whether or not they're true or not, you can perhaps help us to figure out. Maybe you don't even know. But places like Bloemfontein, they've got a much bigger problem than other places. I don't know why, but Bloem apparently is particularly fat.
There is a cultural problem there. When I say cultural, I mean cultural problem in lines of their perception of what would be apparent wealth, and there's no other way to call it. It is apparent wealth. It's so. Yes, there is, I think, a mindset there that needs a lot of work, but I think that again, you've got to lead by example. Do you know of anybody in Bloemfontein that's leading by example?
No. And you can't say it's a race thing either, because they're fat white people and fat black people. It's all fat.
Gareth even texted John Steenhuisen to let him know.
I said to the leader of the opposition that if he... but I mean, listen, you can say this is mean, but I'm happy to admit to it. So John Steenhuisen has become quite fat since he became leader of the opposition. He wasn't fat when he started. And I said to him, I have a problem with putting my faith and my vote into a fat person because I'm not sure you have the self-control. And he's not like gargantuan, he's not like these people who have serious health issues like you're talking about the BMI over 50 people. He's somewhere where it's controllable. Julius Malema went through the same thing. He was very fat and he lost a tremendous amount of weight. Then he's kind of settled somewhere in the middle, which is probably healthy. But I think
Gwede Mantashe, he was very thin in the beginning.
I don't know about that. I've never seen Gwede Mantashe.
No, when he was a freedom fighter, and then now
maybe it's because they catch a nap in Parliament. They catch a nap in Parliament straight after lunch.
Bariatric surgery that you don't know about. Just bear that in the back of your mind.
No, sure. I'm not making any judgment on those people. What I'm saying is, if you're going to stand for office, and you mentioned it, Doc, you said lead by example.
Yes,
I don't want someone who looks like they're gonna chase the KFC barrel down the passage rather than pass the important laws for the rest of us.
Gareth, I will support you in terms of that mindset. I will support you 100%. If you're a public figure and you are going to have, well, you're quite rightfully saying you're putting your life into other people's hands in an indirect way. It has got a reflection on accountability, leadership, taking responsibility. Okay, so let's say you are one of those people in a key position like that struggles with your weight for many medical reasons and for all the reasons that I've already discussed. Then take ownership of it. The problem in South Africa is that we really, well, I think amongst the politicians, they're still battling to take ownership.
Yeah, I think that's a problem for all of us. With an external locus of control for everything, whether it be your issues around your childhood, your psychological well-being, your weight, the way that you have access to resources or not. It's always someone else's fault, and we always try to externalize these things rather than take responsibility for them. And yes, Doctor, I just want to be clear again. I think you are extremely helpful and eloquent, especially on the basis that there are people out there who desperately need help, who are not able to just eat less and run more. I get that, and I appreciate you saying it. And I think that those people are very, very fortunate to have someone like you who can help them with the bariatric surgery and the rest of it where they absolutely need it. But we've got a problem in this country. Top 5 fattest countries in the world.
Sure.
We've got to sort ourselves out. It's just unacceptable. We're not going to be taken seriously. No one looks at the fat people at the ball.
Maybe that's why Ryan's leaving.
That to a large extent, I like your terminology. I can see you've done your homework around psychology, the external locus of control. Is unfortunately in this country incredibly high for everything. You name it, it's there.
Yes, absolutely.
It is something that we as a nation have to look at and be very honest about. How do we change it, Gareth? I mean, the only way in which we can change it is to talk about it, because it can become a habitual thing that everybody resorts to. South Africa may well be past the point of turning the ship around and steering it in another direction. However, I would like to believe in the positive side and say that if we have enough media influence and we can get enough people to understand that an external locus of control is probably the worst tool that you can use for solving problems, then we will have achieved a lot of things with a lot of things.
Couldn't agree more. All right, Doc, we're going to let you go and get busy with all the important things you have to do today and the lives you have to save, very literally. So thank you for making time to be with us. I really appreciate it. It's always good to have someone who knows what they're talking about. Now all the rich people who came to listen to Ozempic advice can get that and get on with their lives. And all those people who are struggling with obesity can decide whether or not they can do something about it or whether they need to come and see you. So we've provided people with solutions today, which is fantastic. So thank you very much.
It's been my pleasure. I enjoyed it.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Doc.
Thanks.
And Sunil?
Yes.
Sorry that you couldn't get a word in edgewise there. It's all the fat people are taking up all the space.
I can tell.
Thinking about the 340 and how they sit
Jesus,
around.
imagine 340 kilograms.
My God.
I just
couldn't
can't
fit in
fathom
that studio. They wouldn't fit in here.
Now, you see, I asked my question because there was someone I met in Cape Town, and she was quite big, but she was like she had started an Instagram page where she was trying to lose weight, showing people how you can do it with exercise and right eating. But about a year in, so I haven't seen her in so long. No, she got surgery. And then everyone is like, no, but you cheated. And she's like, no, it's not cheating because of this. And so that's why I was asking my question.
No. If you need, if that kind of intervention is what is required and the doctors say that's what you need, that's not cheating. That's saving.
And it's not like she stopped putting the work in.
That's saving your life. I mean, come on.
But sometimes, like some doctors, when you're slightly overweight or obese is the word being used, they say that it's healthier than being too thin as well.
Yeah. So just try to look after yourself. You never, again, you get these people with body dysmorphia that they're never happy. They're never thin enough. They're never muscled enough. They're never the right amount of fat. It's just find your happy medium. You're never going to be perfect. None of us are going to be perfect.
Self-love, guys.
There's no such thing as perfect. You ask anybody who you think is attractive, chances are they've got issues.
Yeah.
Really?
Self-love.
Well, not self-love. Not unbounded self-love. It's exactly where you reach for the packet of sweets and eat 7,000 chocolate cakes a month.
3 bunny chows.
You and the bunny.
Yeah,
I'm worried about you.
You're
gonna come back. Next time Sunil's on then we're going to weigh you next time. I promise you, I'm bringing a scale in. Next time you come on the show, we're weighing you. See how many of those bunny chows you had. All right, everybody. Thank you. That's been lots of fun. And big thank you to Dr. Tess van der Merwe, who helped us out this morning. Obviously, very, very interesting stuff there. And we only really scratched the surface because it is such an issue. And so many people, as she pointed out, in this country are dealing with it on a daily basis. So if it helped, it helped. Don't expect me to change. I'm not going to, but I'm not your psychologist. I'm also not your boyfriend, and I'm not your dad. Wah. You don't like me. You don't like me. You don't have to listen. I don't give a shit. Thank you, Sunil.
Thank you very
much.
much.
See you, my
Thank
friend.
you.
And we'll catch up with you again soon. Keep healing people with the Reiki.
I will do.
Gongalongala, whatever the hell you do.
I do Kongalonga, but also use yeah, that and the video editing, content editing.
Yes, well, that's important. Do you do that freelance?
Yeah, freelance, and
busy helping people look better on the internet.
And the emceeing weddings, not getting kisses from guys anymore.
Okay, that's good news.
Yeah,
I'm proud of you for deciding where your boundaries are. All right, and Ryan's still with us for a couple of days, so he's not going off to Ireland yet.
Nope.
Also, you got to watch in Ireland that you don't end up drinking too much Guinness.
No, I've heard you can become an alcoholic from moving there.
So we got all the tough love you could wish in one show today. What a way to start your Monday, right? Dr. Hanan, Sunil, Ryan, me, Dr. Tess, everything you need. All right, everybody, we'll see you